Welcome to English Storytime Adventures. In today's video, we're going to listen to an exciting short story that will help you improve your English skills. Listen carefully and follow along with the subtitles. Before we begin, here are some key words you'll hear in the story. Pay attention to their meaning and try to use them in your own sentences later. Purpose. The reason why something is done or created or why someone exists. Variety, the quality or state of having different forms or types. Immigration, the action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country. Natural, existing in or caused by nature, not made or caused by humankind. Now that you're familiar with these words, let's begin the story. Sophie sat in the small, cozy classroom, staring at the whiteboard, trying to focus. She had come to this new country with her family, hoping for a fresh start. But life was harder than she imagined. Sophie was an immigrant, and although her heart was full of hope, every day felt like a challenge. Mr. Benson, her teacher, smiled warmly at the class. He was a kind man with graying hair and gentle eyes. Today, he began, we're going to talk about purpose. He wrote the word on the board in large letters. Does anyone know what purpose means? Sophie raised her hand shyly. It means why we do something? Exactly, Mr. Benson replied. Purpose gives meaning to everything we do. Without purpose, life can feel confusing, like walking in a fog. But when you find your purpose, it's like the sun breaking through the clouds. Everything becomes clear. Sophie nodded. She knew why her family had moved here. They wanted a better life, a better future, but she still struggled to find her own purpose in this strange, new place. After class, Sophie walked through the park on her way home. The autumn leaves crunched under her feet, and the air was cool and fresh. She loved how natural everything felt here. The trees, the sky, the peaceful sounds of birds. It was so different from the noisy city she had left behind. As she walked, she thought about Mr. Benson's words. What was her purpose? Why had she come here? Sure, her parents had their reasons, but what about her? The next day in class, Mr. Benson handed out a piece of paper to each student. I want you all to write about something that gives you joy. It could be anything. An activity, a memory, a dream. Just write freely. Don't worry about making it perfect. Sophie stared at the paper for a moment, then began to write. She wrote about how much she loved cooking with her grandmother back home, how they used to try new recipes every weekend. Her grandmother always said that life needed variety, like food. Without variety, life would be dull, she used to say. Sophie smiled at the memory. She realized how much she missed that. The different spices, the laughter, the time spent together. After a few minutes, Mr. Benson asked the class to share what they had written. Sophie hesitated, but eventually raised her hand. I wrote about cooking with my grandmother, she said softly. She always said life needs variety. It's what makes everything interesting. Mr. Benson nodded thoughtfully. That's a beautiful thought, Sophie. Variety is indeed important. It reminds us that there's more than one way to live, more than one path to take. Sophie felt a little braver after sharing. Over the next few weeks, she started to make small changes in her life. She joined a cooking club at school, where students from different countries shared their favorite recipes. The club was full of variety, and Sophie began to feel more connected to her new environment. One evening, as she prepared a traditional dish from her home country for her family, she realized something. Her purpose wasn't just about adapting to her new life. It was about embracing both the old and the new, finding a balance between her past and present. Sophie smiled to herself as she stirred the pot. She might be an immigrant in this new land, But that didn't mean she had to leave everything behind. She could bring a piece of her past with her, mixing it into her new life, just like she mixed the spices in her cooking. By the end of the school year, Sophie felt different. She had found a sense of peace and belonging, not by forgetting her past, but by adding it to the variety of her new experiences. She had discovered her purpose, not just to adapt, but to grow and evolve, like the changing seasons in the natural world around her. As Sophie looked out at the sunset that evening, she realized she had finally found what she was looking for, a place where her old life and new life could coexist, a place where she truly belonged. Great job following along with the story. Now, let's review the key words we learned today. Purpose. The reason why something is done or created or why someone exists. Example from the story. Purpose gives meaning to everything we do. Without purpose, life can feel confusing. Variety. The quality or state of having different forms or types. Example from the story. Without variety, life would be dull, Sophie's grandmother used to say. Immigration. The action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country. Example from the story. Sophie was an immigrant, and although her heart was full of hope, every day felt like a challenge. Natural. Existing in or caused by nature, not made or caused by humankind. Example from the story. She loved how natural everything felt here. The trees, the sky, the peaceful sounds of birds. Now, let's check your understanding of the story. See if you can answer these questions. Question 1. What was the main challenge Sophie faced after moving to the new country? Question 2. What important lesson did Sophie learn about balancing her past and present by the end of the story? Feel free to pause the video and write down your answers in the comments. Great work today. Well done. You've just completed another story with English Storytime Adventures. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more fun and educational stories. And don't forget to leave a comment with your thoughts or answers to the questions. I'd love to see how much you've learned. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next episode of English Storytime Adventures. Until then, happy learning.